Still still thrilled to be able to connect with you all in this way. So I do have some slides that I'll be sharing with you today, but please feel free, since it is a small group, you are always welcome to post questions in the chat. Those will come just to me. And I won't say who asked the question. I'll simply repeat your question and we'll talk about it as a group. But we will also leave some time for questions at the end as well. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead again with sharing some of these slides, but this is really going to be more of a benchmark for us to go off of. Okay, so hopefully everybody's able to see the slides at this point. Again, welcome. We're so happy to have you here to talk about the university. We always like to acknowledge the land on which we live and learn. So even though we are not physically on campus right now, it looks like many of you are not physically on your campus right now. Again, we want to acknowledge the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations and the gift that they made to the university with the land transfer so that their children could be educated, and really reaffirming the ancestral and contemporary ties to the university. So I do have a few poll questions just to get to know, where our audience is coming from. Want to get to know what you're interested in hearing about today to make sure that we're, really talking about things that are applicable to you. So for our first poll question, just which high school do you attend? So again, virtual programming has really made a unique circumstance that we have some students from possibly multiple different schools attending, although it looks like today we have a really strong presence from Grayslake North. So wonderful. We're so happy to see all of our students here today. And of course, we'll also be able to share this with our friends over at Central as well. I'm also wanting to get an idea of how much research you might have already done into the university. Do you know which of the programs you might be the most interested in, or which school or college that you might want to apply to? So in a moment, we'll talk about how when you apply to the university, you're not applying to the university as a whole, you're actually choosing a specific program. And that's okay if you're not exactly sure at this point. Again, just trying to gauge where most of our interest lies so I can spend most of our time talking about that. Okay, so looks like most of our interest is for the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, which makes sense. That is our largest program on campus. We bring in about 4,000 students every year for the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, but also some interest in engineering as well, and for the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. So love to see that diversity there. We have one final question for you. So the university prides itself on having one of the largest alumni networks in the world. So we wanted to ask you, which of these notable U of M alums would you most like to get coffee with? So right away, maybe we have some Glee fans, or just movie fans in general, a strong showing for Darren Criss and James Earl Jones. Madonna, of course, again, some maybe music theater fans in the room. Of course, Tom Brady, if any of you are interested in football. Larry Page, if anyone's ever heard of Google. Sanjay Gupta is the chief medical correspondent for CNN. So we will go ahead and end there, but just wanted to give you a tiny little taste of, some of the great minds and the great individuals who are coming from the university. So from there, I really wanted to get started. Again, I don't have a huge idea of how much you all already know about the university or the area that we're located in. So we are located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's a small city of about 100,000 people. So I think it's a really good size. There's a lot to do. There's restaurants, there's sporting venues. We're located right on the Huron River. So there's, kayaking, hiking, lots to do in the area. We are ranked consistently as one of the best college towns. So for me specifically, I am an alum of the university. I'm actually from Illinois myself. So I think it's a pretty good location for all of you as well, because you're getting away from home a little bit, but still in a nice proximity to visit for the weekend if you would like to. You can see here that we have a pretty vast undergraduate population. We have students on campus from all 50 states. And more than 100 countries around the world. So what this really says to me is you're not only bringing in and learning from professors who are at the top of their fields, but you also are going to be surrounded by a lot of students from very different backgrounds and perspectives, which is a great thing as well. We actually have even grown this number since to about 14% of our campus identifies as a first generation college student. So not having a parent who had attended college. So something that we are very proud to see grow. We're going to talk a little bit about the academic offerings at the university. We have more than 280 different degrees that you can attain. So just about anything there is that you would like to study, we offer here at Michigan. Something else I do like to point out that is a misconception a lot of the time, because we are a large institution, we bring in about 7,000 first-year students every year, but we have actually fairly small classes considering the large size of our undergraduate population. So when I came to Michigan, I actually came from a really small town in Southern Illinois. I definitely thought that I would be surrounded by a lot of really large lecture classes and was really happy to discover that was not at all my experience, where in fact, most of our classes actually have fewer than 50 students. We do maintain that 15:1 student to faculty ratio by having discussion breakdowns. So in the event that you are in a larger course, that will always be accompanied by a discussion section. A few other things just wanting to mention, we do have a very vibrant residence life here on campus. 97% of our first year students choose to live on campus, though it's not required. So just putting that out there. We also have a lot of what we call living learning programs. So kind of an immersive living experience, like let's say you're really interested in the arts, or you're really interested in, you're a female in science and engineering, being able to live with a group of students who have similar academic and personal interests to you. So I'm going to stop at this point and just see, are there any questions about the overall university, where we are, kind of what we offer? We are going to go into more specifics at this time about the actual programs you can study and the application process, but I'll pause for just a moment. Again, if you have questions, you are welcome to put them in the chat. You're also welcome to just turn off your microphone and speak your question aloud. All right, if we don't have anything at this point, I will continue with kind of the nitty gritty of actually applying to the university. So just by a show of hands, has anybody actually started a college application? Not necessarily just to the university, but that's okay if not. It's September 9th, you have lots of time, that's perfectly okay. But that's awesome for those of you who have opened up the application and maybe you've taken a look at it. So something, if you've already looked at Michigan's application, something that you might notice is that, like I said, you're not applying just to the University of Michigan as a whole. You're choosing one of these 7 first-year admitting units, right? So we offer a lot of different degree programs, but for your first year, we're keeping it pretty narrow. We're asking you to choose from one of these 7. So just to give a very, very brief overview of what these abbreviations are, I had mentioned the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts for an example. That is our broad liberal arts program. It does hold the vast majority of our students. They offer more than 85 different majors and over 100 minors. So it is a great landing point for any student who's undecided. If you're not quite sure what you want to study, you can study anything from paleontology to classic languages and literatures to neuroscience to Afro-American studies within the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. So great breadth that's available for you there. We have our College of Engineering. There are 17 different engineering majors that are available. But again, we're just asking you to apply to engineering as a whole. We're not asking you to choose one of those 17 majors at the time that you apply. You would declare a major once you're actually on campus. We have a School of Nursing. Again, I'll go quickly through those, based on the polling and what you said, you were really interested in. We offer a nursing program. We offer a School of Kinesiology. So a great option for students that might be interested in like sports medicine, physiology, those types of things. We have a School of Art and Design, a School of Music, Theater, and Dance, which I know that there was some interest in that program there. Those majors range from music, instrumental, vocal, dance performance, to music education, to arts technology. And finally, we have our architecture program. So of course, I will take more specific questions about each of these, but just wanted to give the overall flavor of our first year admitting unit. Now, something else that I wanted to touch on, let's say at this, maybe you're not quite sure what it is that you want to do, and that's perfectly okay. We see a lot of students that come to Michigan that decide on Michigan because they're not exactly sure what it is they want to study, right? We have more than 280 different degrees that we offer. More than 90% of those are ranked in the top 20 nationally. So you can feel really confident that no matter what it is that you decide to pursue, you're going to be studying within a top ranked program, and you're going to wind up with a degree that's really valued all over the world. So maybe at this time though, you're thinking, well, maybe I'd like to become a teacher, or I'd like to go into pharmacy or public health, and you didn't see those options as one of those 7 first-year choices. That's because these are what we call an upper level program. That means you enter the university, again, in one of those other 7 units, and then you can join one of these programs later on. So to give an example, the School of Education is a 2-year junior senior program that you could complete your teaching degree once you're already on campus. So just to give a little example of those, the different colors simply reflect whether you can apply for one of these programs on your first year application. So again, to give you an example, if the option that you're interested in is listed in yellow, so let's say the School of Education, I would actually have the option when I'm filling out my application as a senior in high school to check a box and say right now that I'm interested in being part of the School of Education. Does that make sense? Just by like a nod of the head. If it's in blue, then that's a program that you can't apply for right away, but you could apply for once you get on campus. Do we have any questions before we really dive into the application process and what we're looking for in a competitive applicant? Do we have any questions about those 7 first-year admitting units, the majors that are offered, anything having to do with double majors or minors, or anything at all relating to academic programs? I'll stop for just a moment. Yeah, let's see, Olivia.
I was just going to ask, which of the 7 schools does like the psychology department fall under? Because I'm really interested in majoring in psych. So
great question. So psychology is within the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. Closer to the end of our program, I'm going to give some links for you all in our chat that will direct you to where you could find that information. So if you have a certain major in mind or a certain career in mind and you're not quite sure which of those 7 units is for me, I will definitely drop a link in the chat for you. And actually, I could just do that right now. If you would like to hang tight for one moment, I will go ahead and do that for you all so that you know how to find that for later. So, okay, and we have a chat in here as well. Okay, so the link that I just gave you all is to our main admissions homepage, but we actually have all of our majors and minors that are listed, so you can look through and see, for the major that I'm interested in, what program is that housed in. Hillary asked, how many minors can you have? That's a great question. Hillary, you can technically have as many minors as you would like. I would say 1 or maybe 2 is probably the most common. But one of the things that I loved about the curriculum at Michigan and that I loved about my advising here is that, rarely, if ever, are you going to have a circumstance where you're told, no, you can't do that. It's typically more a conversation of, what is your academic timeline? What are you looking to achieve, in your career, or what do you think that, this combination is going to help you achieve later? Just speaking from personal experience, one of my good friends from Michigan actually majored in biomolecular science and had minors in women's studies and art history. So I think a good example of how her major and her 2 minors were not really related to one another at all, but she had a really enriching experience and was able to take a huge variety of courses while she was here. You can also major and minor across schools and colleges. Let's say, Hillary, as an example, let's say that you want to major in mechanical engineering and you want to minor in music, you can do that. We're very flexible, again, wanting students to really have a degree that they're happy with in the end. So good questions. Do we have any other questions at this point about like academic programs? Again, we will return at the end for more Q&A. Not right now. Okay, we are going to go back then to our screen share and talk a little bit about the actual application process and the application review process. So can everybody see our slides again? Okay, so I'd be remiss if I didn't touch a little bit on how the pandemic has impacted our processes. One of the main things being, unfortunately, we're not hosting on-campus events. So we're not hosting tours or information sessions, but we do have a lot of resources available for you online. So we have a virtual tour, we have an information session, we have Q&A sessions with counselors like myself, where you can log in and ask questions both on a group and an individual basis. So the link that I put in the chat for you is one of the ways that you can actually access those through our main admissions. In terms of our application requirements and deadlines, we have had a few changes that are made. So you all might know we have an early action deadline that's November 15th. So early action is non-binding. It's simply a way for you to really indicate that you're interested in the University of Michigan. So if you apply by November 15th and you're admitted, this does not mean that you have to attend. Again, it's completely non-binding, but by applying by that early deadline, first off, it's showing that you're really interested in the university, and it also allows you to receive a decision from us earlier than if you were to wait until our regular decision deadline, which is February 1st. And again, we will cover those deadlines in more detail. The other application requirement that has really been a big change is that we have adopted a test flexible model. So again, we realize that for many students, you may not have had the opportunity to sit for an ACT or an SAT. We understand that. We intend to give students full and thorough consideration, whether or not you're able to present a standardized test score. So test flexible simply means if you have sat for a test, we ask that you self-report it to us. Self-report meaning you can simply list your scores on your application. We don't expect that you're sending an official score report. But once again, if you have not had the opportunity to take an ACT or an SAT, that is okay. You're also welcome to report other testing to us if you'd like. So for example, AP exams that you might have taken prior to the pandemic, SAT subject tests, if anybody has sat for those, even a PSAT score, all of those things would be acceptable and would be information that we could use in our review. I know that there's sometimes questions about application review and testing. I do have some more slides on this topic, but do we have any questions right at this point? Not right now. Okay, well, I think, what everybody is really curious about in these visits are, what are you looking for in a strong applicant? So right here, we're gonna kind of go through our application review process, really breaking it down into 6 main components. So what we have listed on the screen here are those academic factors, right? So we really feel that the student that you are in high school is going to be the best indicator to us of whether you would be successful in the coursework here at Michigan. So starting off, of course, we want to take a look at your grades throughout high school. Are you doing well? Are you achieving mostly A and B grades in your classes? Some of the things, just to mention here, we do recalculate every student's GPA onto an unweighted 4.0 scale. So as you can imagine, we are seeing applications from thousands of high schools across the country. All of them use a slightly different grading scale, so we want to make sure that we are looking at all of our applicants on the same scale. So how we do this is we take a look at your transcript. Any A+, A, or A- that you receive is a 4.0. Any B+, B, or B- is a 3.0, and so on and so forth. So that's how we are recalculating your GPA onto this 4.0 scale. We're going to take a look at your grades in 9th through 11th. Again, recognizing that for this past semester or the end of your 11th grade year for those of you who are seniors, or your 10th grade year for those of you who are juniors, and so on and so forth, we recognize that you might have some courses that are like a pass-fail, that are credit, no credit. That's completely okay. Those will not be calculated into your GPA. And again, we understand that many students may be in that boat right now, that they don't have graded work for this past spring semester. We're also going to take a look at those grade trends. So for example, a student with a 3.7 GPA could be a super strong applicant if maybe they started off not as strong in 9th grade, but they've started taking some rigorous coursework and they've really done well into 11th grade. By contrast, a student, another student that also has a 3.7 GPA might not be as strong of an applicant if they started off with all A's, in 9th grade, and then their grades started to dip in 10th and 11th as the coursework got more difficult. So that's a little overview at that contextual review. We're also going to take a look at what actual classes are you taking. So I know all of you in the room today are from Grayslake North, but also for students at Grayslake Central, we know that you have a good amount of AP and honors courses that are available to you. We want to see that you're taking advantage of those. Are you challenging yourself, especially in your areas of academic interest and strength? Are you taking advantage of some of those advanced courses? Do we have any questions at this point about how we're looking at grades, how we're looking at COVID grades, how we're looking at the curriculum that you're taking? Nothing right now. Okay, I will also mention, we're also going to take a look at the curriculum you've elected depending on the program that you're interested in. So I know somebody here said that they were interested in engineering. We're going to see, are you taking advantage of AP Physics and AP Calculus, AP Chemistry, because those are available at your school? Are you really maximizing the opportunities that are available to you and taking advantage of those classes? Finally, for test scores, again, we accept the ACT or the SAT, but we do have that test flexible option. So if you have not been able to sit for a standardized test, or you don't think you're going to be able to before that November 15th deadline, that is okay. You can still apply with all of your other materials and will be given full consideration for admission. Anything else on the academic review before I move on? Okay. So just to give, again, a little bit of our numbers for you, we received nearly 70,000 first-year applications this past year. So that is a lot of students. We're really fortunate to have so many students from all over the country and all over the world that are interested in Michigan. But as you can imagine, there are far more students who are academically qualified than we're able to admit in a given year. So this is really where we turn to those personal factors. What else are you doing outside of the classroom that's going to show us that you are going to be a great fit for campus? So I mentioned we have a really active, vibrant student body that are involved in a lot of different things outside of their courses. So we want to see, what is it that you like to do outside of school? Whether you're involved in sports or arts or service. There is a section on the application, again, for those of you who have already opened that up, where there are 10 spaces for you to list the activities that you are involved in. Something to be thinking about, we're really looking to see quality over quantity. So that means it's okay if you're not filling all 10 of those spaces. That doesn't necessarily make for a stronger application because you're listing the most things. What we're really looking to see is, do you have sustained involvement? A few things that you've really carried throughout your entire high school career. Do you have any activities where you've taken on a leadership role? You've really shown commitment to this organization and you've taken it even a step farther by being a leader within that organization. Those are really the things that we're looking to see with your involvement. Again, I want to point out, a lot of the time students think that school involvement or that activities are limited to like school clubs and organizations. But again, maybe some of you are really involved in your religious community. Maybe some of you are responsible for taking care of siblings outside of school. And so you're not able to participate in a lot of organized clubs or sports because you have to be home and take care of them. Maybe some of you hold a part-time job. Again, that's absolutely something that we hope you will let us know about in that extracurricular section. We're simply looking to see, what are you doing with your time outside of school? A recommendation, we ask for one recommendation. Typically that will be from an academic teacher, but it is also okay to ask for a recommendation from someone else in the community who can really speak to your academic potential. And finally, I want to touch a little bit on the application essays. So this is everybody's favorite part of the college application process, right? Writing those essays. I know that that can seem really stressful to a lot of students because you're not sure what it is that you're supposed to say or what it is that we want to hear. Well, the good news that I really have for you is that there is no right or wrong answer. We don't interview students for admission. So the essays really are your opportunity to tell us anything about yourself that you think that we should know about you. So the ones that I really want to focus on are these two supplemental essays for the University of Michigan. So first off, we have the community essay where we are asking you to tell us about a community that you belong to or a community that you identify with. So I've read some really creative community essays throughout the years. Belonging to the marching band community or the community service community. I've read about students who are part of the hot dog lovers community, the cat lovers community. Some students also take a little bit of a more serious approach, and I've read some really nice essays from students who talk about how they are one of the few African American or Muslim or Hispanic students in their community. Again, this is really your opportunity to tell us about that if that's something that you identify with or you feel that it has changed your perspective. That's something that we really would like to know about here. And finally, we have that Why Michigan essay, right? It seems pretty self-explanatory. Why is it that you are interested? Why is it that you're applying to the University of Michigan? So just to give an example that I often see in these applications, and Olivia, I'm going to pick on you a little bit because you mentioned, let's say, an interest in psychology. So let's say Olivia writes a beautiful essay about how she discovered an interest in psychology and she can't wait to pursue psychology because she wants to go on to become a clinical psychologist. Well, that's a great essay that's telling me that you're interested in psychology, but what's missing there? What's missing is why psychology at Michigan, right? Olivia, when you're looking at schools, you'll probably realize you can study psychology at a lot of different places. Why do you want to pursue that psychology degree with us? What is it about our course offerings? Maybe the research opportunities that you can do with professors. Maybe you discover a psychological students association that you can get involved with and do work in the community in educational psychology. We want to see that you're doing a little bit of homework into what can Michigan offer you for whatever program or career that you're interested in going into. If you're not quite sure what it is that you want to study, again, that's completely okay. You could write a great Michigan essay saying, I don't know exactly what I want to major in, and I want to come to Michigan because LSA offers over 90 different majors, and I don't have to declare one until I'm a junior, so I will have that time to explore. Again, really spending a little bit of time exploring some of our program websites, showing us that you've done a little bit of research really goes a long way. So at this point, we'll pause. I just have a few slides left, but does anybody have questions about really the qualitative part of the application? So the recommendation that we ask for, the activities that you're going to be listing, the essays that you would write. Yeah, Olivia.
I was going to ask, I know it says that you need one teacher recommendation, but are you able to have more?
So yes, you are able to submit more. We do ask that you just send the one. If you do choose to submit more, I would advise you to think about, is this really telling us something new? Often when we're getting multiple recommendation letters, they're kind of repeating the same theme, which is, that this is a wonderful student. It can be certainly impactful to have another letter if it's, from somebody else in the community that is really bringing in a different perspective. So we will consider additional letters as supplemental information, but again, we really require and just ask for the one.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions at this point? Nothing right now. We have, again, a few more slides. I wanted to linger here just for a minute to give kind of our timeline. So again, the application has been open for a little more than a month now. The financial aid application will be opening in a few weeks, and we are going to touch on that as well. We have our early action deadline of November 15th. Again, I really want to stress that if you're highly interested in the university, I would encourage you to apply by that November 15th deadline. We use the same review criteria whether you apply by November 15th or if you need a little bit more time, we do have that regular decision deadline. But again, if you're really interested, apply early. It gives you more time to be considered, and another advantage is you could have your decision far earlier, and so you have more time to weigh those options. But again, if you do need a little bit more time, we have that regular decision deadline of February 1st. I know there's a lot of information in here, so you're welcome to snap a picture if you feel that that would be helpful. But the other thing I want to go over are the three communications that you could possibly hear from us. So of course, a deny, meaning that we don't feel that you're the best fit for the university at this time, but we'd love to consider you later on as a transfer applicant if your interest continues. We have the postpone decision that will go out to many of our applicants that apply during early action. So being postponed simply means we think that you're a highly qualified candidate, but are maybe not among the most competitive that we're seeing during that early action review period. We'd like to continue to consider your application in our full applicant pool, because remember, we're still going to see a lot more applications coming in at that regular decision deadline of February 1st. And of course, the decision everybody hopes to hear is that admit that we are so excited for you to join our campus community. So I did want to touch on, our community here at Michigan. I mentioned we have a really active, engaged student body. We have more than 1,600 different student organizations. So that's one of the reasons why we want to see what you're involved in high school. We want to know, what are the things that you love to do, and what are you going to want to continue when you join our campus. So lots of different ways that you can get involved. Athletics are a big part of our campus. Not this fall, unfortunately. We're really missing our football season here on campus. But even for those of you who might not consider yourself a big fan of sports, it really is a way that the student body kind of unites. It's such a spirited environment, going to a football game or a basketball game, and just seeing everybody decked out in their maize and blue. And it's also a great way to be connected to your school long after you graduate, just having those opportunities to, tune in for games with friends and with other alumni. But I also point out that all of our other sports, other than football, men's basketball, and men's hockey, all of those are free for viewing for students. So you can go to a baseball game. I've been to a gymnastics meet, lots of other opportunities to engage in athletic viewing. Again, I mentioned a little bit earlier, we are proud to have a huge alumni network of more than 600,000 people all over the world. So this is something that I think makes the university really special, that since I have been privileged to join this network, there's rarely anywhere in the world that you can go. If you're wearing a Michigan t-shirt or a baseball cap, it's hard to go anywhere and not hear a, go blue. So the pride and the passion of our alumni, I think, is part of what makes Michigan such. Of course, I wanted to leave you off with these resources. So again, this is me. My name is Rachel Taylor. I am your admissions counselor for Grayslake North and Central. So I hope that you will feel comfortable reaching out to me. I'll also be sending you a follow-up email. So again, I will post the link in the chat again, but I did have a short form that I would ask all of you to fill out, just so that I know that you were here today, and I'll be able to send you future opportunities to engage with us. But these are also some ways that you can engage on our website. Yeah, Noel? Oh, you're muted. Noah, you're still muted. There you go.
FAFSA is required for all students in Illinois to graduate from high school.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a deadline for that, or just as soon as
So great
possible
question.
after October 1st?
Yep, so I will go back a couple of slides here. So as you know, then FAFSA opens up on October 1st.
Mhm.
We have the suggested or recommended filing date of December 15th. Again, just for full consideration, we recommend just getting those materials in as soon as possible. But
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed those on that slide.
That's okay. The final deadline is March 31st. But again, I would always recommend earlier is better when it comes to financial aid. So making sure to get those materials in sooner.
Okay. And you require both the FAFSA and the CSS?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Yes, good questions. Again, wanted to make sure that you have my contact information, but that you also know how to access our website. Again, there's a lot of information for you there, not only our application process and our requirements, but really information throughout every step of the process. So if you're ever not sure where to go, this is always a good place to start. You're also welcome to send me an email as well. Let's see. We have a question. Can you talk about the optional COVID-19 essay and will this help us stand out? So I think that's a great question. The word that I want to highlight in your question is optional. So this is something that you are welcome to use, if you or your family has really been impacted by the pandemic and you feel that your application would be incomplete without us knowing, certain changes or anything that happened, please use that space to let us know. But again, I think everyone has been impacted by the pandemic in some ways, but if you feel that you personally or your family has not been impacted in a way that has really, inhibited you, or it's not been something that has been a huge impact in your life, again, it's optional. You do not have to fill it out if you don't feel that there's anything really to say. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see, anything else? I'm happy to talk about any questions that you may have, even from a student experience perspective, because I am a U of M alum. I also wanted to again point out, I did include a form for all of you. So is everybody able to see that and has been able to fill that out? Looks like most of you. That's great. I did also include, here I can share this as well. I have an extra slide with our financial aid information. So we are fortunate to be able to offer really generous financial aid, and that's including students who are coming from out of state. So I would always recommend applying for aid, even if you're not quite sure whether or not you might be eligible for aid. Here's also our Office of Financial Aid phone number and email address. So if you do have questions for them, you're always welcome to reach out there. I'll leave that up for just a moment if anybody would like to take that information down.
Right. And again, it's required. The students will not graduate unless they complete the FAFSA.
Yeah.
That's a state thing, not me.
Gotcha. Yeah. But that's a good update for me to know.
There's 5 or 6 states now.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I did not know that. So thanks for informing me. We have a couple more minutes. Again, I am so glad that I had the opportunity to meet with you all. I hope to hear from some of you throughout the fall and throughout the year. So please do reach out if there's anything I can help you with. Again, the reason why I asked you to fill out that form is just so I can connect with you about future engagement opportunities. I will be sending a follow-up email with a lot of these links that I included here. So information about, how do I, do a one-on-one appointment, or how do I take the virtual tour? How do I contact financial aid? The reason I asked you to fill that out is so that I have your contact moving forward for that.